The war is over, but victory looks a lot like ruin. Amidst the carnage, a lone warrior catches her breath. She is the sole survivor, weary but unbroken. She mutters in disbelief at the ferocity of her enemies. Because of one foe, many of the Demon King's army escaped. But the Demon King is dead, and humanity has won the day. She confronts the last general, the one called the Black Ogre. She offers him last words, then promptly reconsiders. In his final moments, he recalls the scorn of his own kind. A single tear falls, a life of servitude ending in regret. His final thought echoes in the silence. He just wanted to be loved. The warrior raises her sword, ready to deliver the final blow. But his vulnerability, his final wish, makes her hesitate. He only ever wanted one person to see him as more than a weapon. And in that moment, the hardened soldier sees not a monster, but a man. Her grip tightens on her blade, her resolve hardening once more. With a single decisive slash, the battle is finally over. Time passes and we jump to a peaceful forest, because that's how stories work. A new hand reaches out, foraging for mushrooms in the quiet woods. But peace is short-lived, as two elves discuss a new threat: orc bandits. The elf warrior explains that orcs are usually no match for village guards. But these bandits are different, having already wiped out 5 villages. Her companions finally grasp the gravity of the situation. The young boy panics, insisting they retreat to safety. The warrior, however, offers a confident smile, her hand on her hilt. In a blur of motion, her blade is unsheathed. She cries out the name of her attack, a gale of wind forming around her. With a single fluid motion, she swings her sword. A massive tree splits apart, a casual display of her immense power. The boy is in awe of his sister's strength, and frankly, so are we. Her companion is less than impressed, scolding her for damaging the forest. The boy tries to explain she was only trying to reassure them, but their conversation is cut short by a deep rumbling sound. The ground itself trembles as something massive approaches through the trees. A colossal hand suddenly smashes into the earth right before them. From the clearing emerges a hulking, boar-like creature of immense power. Its glowing eyes lock onto them. This is no ordinary orc bandit. The warrior immediately shoves her companions behind her, ready for battle. She declares that their luck has run out, for she was sent to stop them. Lunging forward, she unleashes a new attack, the Wind Edge Cross. The beast is momentarily stunned, its eyes wide with surprise. It digs its feet into the ground, bracing against the powerful gale. The impact sends a shockwave tearing through the surrounding forest. We see a flashback of another hero, whose flaming sword shattered against its hide. And just like that hero, our elf warrior's blade proves completely ineffective. The creature stares back, its glowing eyes utterly unimpressed. The warrior grits her teeth, sweat beading on her brow. This is no mere bandit. But then, the beast does something completely unexpected. It holds out its massive hands, revealing a small, injured human girl. So much for the big, scary monster routine, it's actually begging for help. With a desperate look in its eyes, the beast pleads for them to save the child. It kneels before the warrior, a monster brought low by a simple act of love. The scene shifts, moving away from the chaos of the forest. They arrive at a quiet village, a place of potential healing. The group makes their way to what looks like a local clinic. Inside, shelves are lined with remedies and potions. The injured girl now rests in a bed, her protector watching over her. But she's burning up, caught in the grip of a powerful fever, because of course she is. The elf companion recognizes the illness, the dreaded get-a-black fever. The boy asks the obvious question, where did the orc even find her? The elf companion explains the orc is secured in the village dungeon. A weary-looking elder elf confirms the cage is unbreakable by a simple beast. With an iron gaze, she declares that she alone will decide the creature's fate. The warrior is shocked, questioning why they wouldn't just kill it. But the elder's authority is absolute, leaving the warrior conflicted. Her mind flashes back to her father, promising to return from his own war. A tear falls as she relents, the memory of loss still painfully fresh. With the matter settled for now, the elder and her assistant turn to leave. They must now focus on preparing a cure for the sick child. But the assistant still wonders why an orc would risk everything for a human. The warrior's expression shifts, a sudden thought crossing her mind. The elder reveals a shocking truth. The sick child isn't human. Meanwhile, in the village dungeon, a dark scene is unfolding. The warrior and her brother hurry towards the holding cells. Her companion is horrified, realizing what the beast did to the village. A crowd of angry villagers gathers, screaming for the creature's death. The boar-like creature kneels, riddled with arrows from the guards. The warrior, Alicia, arrives, demanding to know what's happening. But the villagers just praise her, completely missing the point as usual. The elder arrives, declaring the beast is too dangerous to be kept alive. Ignoring its own pain, the creature asks only if the child will be saved. Alicia is stunned into silence. This is not the voice of a monster. But the villagers don't care, smashing a rock against its head. They curse its unnatural toughness as their weapons fail to do any real damage. The mob's fury grows, calling for heavier weapons to finish the job. Alicia tries to intervene, reminding them of the elder's direct command. But her words fall on deaf ears. The crowd only wants blood. One villager even volunteers to deliver the killing blow herself. Mob rule is a heck of a thing, isn't it? Suddenly, the creature's body erupts with a strange, crackling energy. As Alicia screams for them to stop, a metal gauntlet emerges from the beast. A wave of energy blasts outwards, sending the villagers reeling. The woman's weapon falls from her grasp, clattering on the stone floor. She screams in rage, revealing her family was killed by demons in the war. She turns her fury on Alicia, questioning her hesitation and her shame. Alicia is torn, her own desire for vengeance warring with her conscience. The metal hand that emerged from the beast clenches into a tight fist. A single desperate question hangs in the air, demanding an answer. Ignoring his own fate, the creature asks Alicia about the child. His only concern is whether or not the little girl will be saved. He begs her, saying his own life doesn't matter, only hers. Alicia is speechless, wondering why he would sacrifice so much for one child. But their tense standoff is shattered by a sudden commotion from outside. The villagers hear the sounds of explosions and screams from the street. Alicia and her companions turn, their faces etched with alarm. She orders her brother Crest to stay behind where it's safe. Without hesitation, she and the other elves rush out of the dungeon. They emerge to find the village swarming with armed orc bandits. The elves immediately assume the captured creature summoned this army. But Alicia wastes no time on blame, resolving to meet the threat head-on. She leads the charge, a lone warrior against a tide of monstrous foes. Alicia unleashes her Tempest Blade, but her magic is silently snuffed out. The orc horde stands their ground, completely unaffected by her power. She stares in disbelief. Her ultimate attack was rendered useless. From the shadows of the horde, a new, far more sinister figure emerges. A skeletal hand casually counts off its targets one by one. The true leader reveals itself, a lich delighted to find so many elves. It's hunting the witch of the village, and apparently elves are a hot commodity. At its command, the orc bandits let out a deafening war cry. Meanwhile, back in the relative quiet of the village dungeon, Cress watches the caged creature, realizing these are the bandits his sister warned of. Cress stands alone, wondering what he should possibly do now. The creature's glowing eyes fixate on the small elf boy. Its massive hand, still partially armored, reaches towards him. The beast towers over Cress, a prisoner no less terrifying up close. But then, the metal gauntlet suddenly shatters and falls away. Cress can only stare, his brain short-circuiting at the sight. With a roar, it bends the cage bars, so much for unbreakable. The boy is paralyzed with fear, his sister's warning echoing in his mind. A hand reaches through the bars, its intent seemingly clear. Cress shuts his eyes, bracing for the inevitable end. But the killing blow never comes. Instead, a gentle hand pats him on the head. Cress can only stare up in stunned silence at the massive creature. The beast promises to return shortly, its voice filled with grim resolve. Meanwhile, outside, the battle for the village has already been lost. Alicia stands alone, the last line of defense against the lich and its horde. She's exhausted, her magic useless against this new, terrifying enemy. The lich raises a bony finger, uttering the name of a powerful curse. In an instant, an immense weight slams Alicia down into the earth. She cries out in agony, pinned and helpless under the crushing force. The lich seems almost bored, finding it distasteful to be leading mere orc bandits. She realizes this is a high-ranking demon, immune to both magic and physical attacks. The last of the village guards are surrounded, their will to fight completely broken. But a sudden blur of motion catches everyone completely off guard. Even the lich turns, its empty sockets questioning the sudden disturbance. From the dust and chaos, a familiar hulking figure emerges. Alicia can only stare in disbelief. It's the creature from the dungeon, somehow free. He now stands between the lich and the fallen elves, an unexpected protector. The lich observes that this newcomer is not one of its orc bandits, demanding to know where he came from. The creature says nothing, his gaze fixed with silent, burning intensity. The lich's expression sours, clearly not a fan of party crashers. The lich snaps its fingers, unleashing a powerful spell called Supernova. A massive explosion erupts, consuming the spot where the creature stood. The blast sends a column of smoke and debris high into the sky. It declares that ignoring a high-ranking demon is a fatal mistake. But from the smoke, the creature emerges without a single scratch. The lich's jaw literally drops, its confidence completely shattered. Even Alicia is stunned, unable to believe he tanked such powerful magic. The lich screams in disbelief, refusing to accept what it's seeing. It desperately fires off a volley of smaller magical blasts, but the attacks simply fizzle out against his impossibly tough hide. The lich demands to know who this upstart is, its voice rattling with fury. Its mind races, connecting the dots, the horns, the black skin, the impossible durability. A horrifying realization begins to dawn on the powerful demon. It screams out a name, a title of legend, the Black, but it never gets to finish that thought. A single brutal punch connects, shattering the lich's skull into dust. The high-ranking demon is sent flying, its body a broken, rag-dolling mess. So much for being a high-ranking demon, as it skips across the ground like a stone. Its broken form finally comes to rest, leaving a long scar in the earth. The orc bandits can only stare, their leader dispatched in a single blow. He turns to the remaining orcs, his message simple: get lost. The bandits are frozen in terror, their bravado completely gone. With panicked squeals, the entire horde turns tail and flees the village. They trample everything in their path, desperate to escape his wrath. With the grunts dealt with, he turns back to the fallen elf warrior. He asks Alicia if she's all right, his voice surprisingly gentle. She can only stare, wondering why this monster just saved her life. But then, without warning, the hulking creature collapses to the ground. Turns out tanking a supernova isn't exactly a walk in the park. Just then, the elder and her assistant arrive to witness the aftermath. The elder's assistant explains that after so many battles, he's become a legend. She confirms his identity, Zaid, the Black Ogre, who once fought the hero to a standstill. But then, a familiar armored figure steps forward, sword raised high. With a deafening crash, she brings her blade down on the fallen creature. The sword strikes true, but it is not a killing blow. Zaid looks up in confusion, asking why she won't just end his life. Instead of an answer, a single drop of water splashes onto his face. He asks her why she is crying. It's the human warrior from the Great War, tears streaming down her face. She whispers that it's because, in the end, they are both the same. Zaid can only look up, questioning her declaration that they are the same. She explains that she, too, was only ever valued for her immense strength. As the world's only hero with angelic blood, she was never allowed to be anything but a weapon. Wiping away a tear, she finds a new kind of resolve in their shared pain. As the sun sets on their old lives, she makes a sudden, life-altering decision. She turns to him with a brilliant smile and makes a rather bold proposal. He will be her husband. Zaid can only stare back, his brain having apparently left the building. His mind is a whirlwind of pure, unadulterated confusion. She takes his stunned silence as a yes, a confident smile on her face. With the matter settled, she tells him it's time to get on his feet. She plants her sword in the ground, a monument to a life she's leaving behind. The hero, Daria, was known for one thing and one thing only: her overwhelming strength. And now she's using that same forceful personality to plan their entire future without his input. She proudly presents their new home, a quaint little fixer-upper in the middle of nowhere. Zaid is handed a fishing rod. His life as a general is officially over. He follows her on their next adventure, wondering why he's even going along with this. But he remembers her tears, the moment he saw his own pain reflected in her eyes. He understood her loneliness and vowed he would never let her feel that way again. All he wanted from that moment on was to see her smile. And from the ashes of war, something new begins to grow. She finds a simple joy in their new life, happy that he finally has a reason to smile. Even a small bouquet of flowers is a precious gift between them. And her smile in return is the only reward he's ever needed. He is proud to be the one who brings her such genuine happiness. That night, they sit together under a vast star-filled sky. Daria points to a shooting star, asking if he knows the old legend. She explains that a wish made upon one is guaranteed to come true. Her elf teacher even taught her how to use one to create a panacea. Casual. Zaid turns to her, asking if she has a wish she wants to make. For the first time, the hero considers what she truly desires for herself. She looks down, her expression turning unexpectedly somber. Then she meets his gaze, her wish finally spoken aloud. She wants to have a child with him. Zaid's brain promptly shuts down, unable to process this sudden, life-altering request. But their bond is undeniable, a connection forged in the quiet aftermath of war. He realizes this is the belonging he has searched for his entire lonely life. But their peaceful existence is shattered in an instant as Daria suddenly falls violently ill. Zaid can only watch over her, powerless as her health begins to rapidly fade. He fears the worst, knowing a child between an angel-blooded human and a demon is impossible. But Daria meets his worry with a weak but determined smile, vowing to protect their child. Her resolve is absolute, for in her heart she is already a mother. With each passing day, Daria grows weaker, pouring her life into their child. And against all odds, a healthy baby girl is born into the world. Zaid holds his daughter for the first time, a bittersweet moment of new life. But the cost of this miracle was everything. Daria's life was fading fast. With her last breaths, she asks Zaid to show their daughter, Nonoa, the world. She refuses to let their child's life be confined to this lonely forest. She wants Nonoa to see its beauty and choose her own path free from destiny. With a gaze of unbreakable resolve, Zaid accepts her final wish. A faint, peaceful smile graces her lips, her duty finally done. She reaches out one last time, asking him to hold her hand. He holds their daughter, a promise made in the shadow of grief. With her final breath, Daria apologizes for having to leave him behind. And so, the world's greatest hero is laid to rest in a simple, quiet grave. Her last words echo in his mind, releasing him from any obligation to her memory. She insists someone will find him because her husband is the handsomest man alive. She had very specific taste. With a silent vow, Zaid accepts his new purpose, to be a father. And so he begins his journey, a promise to a ghost and a future for his child. Which brings us back to the present and the Elf Village Clinic. He's startled by a sudden sound, a reminder of how out of place he is here, because his daughter Nonoa is now burning with a deadly fever. Zaid's eyes widen in panic as he whispers his daughter's name. But the elder elf assures him Nonoa will be fine, thanks to a high elf panacea. Her assistant is still reeling from the revelation. The legendary hero had a child with a demon. Zaid is taken aback by their sudden knowledge of his past. The elder explains she used magic to view his memories, offering a rather blunt apology. Her assistant smirks, adding that such caution is necessary when dealing with his kind. The elder recounts his journey, traveling without rest, enduring a mob, and tanking powerful spells. She slumps into a chair, exhausted just thinking about his impossible endurance. So much for elven stamina. Zaid stands before them, a figure of immense power and unwavering devotion. With a quiet intensity, he thanks them for saving his daughter's life. The elder waves off his gratitude, having only one question for him. She asks why he clings to the child who cost the hero her life. But Zaid states plainly that he never once considered Nonoa a burden. He explains that he is just a simple orc, not one for deep thinking. All these complicated questions are simply beyond his understanding. He only remembers that the ever-forceful Daria waited for his answer just once, and he gave it without hesitation because she gave him everything in return. Well, maybe with a little hesitation, his brain was basically soup at the time. Now his purpose is simple. He will raise Nonoa as her father. He turns back to the elder, declaring that this child is their precious treasure. The elder is deeply moved, as you can tell by her utter lack of expression. Her mind drifts back to a memory of a young Daria, full of wonder. As her teacher, she had asked the young hero what she truly wished for. The young Daria had paused, giving the question genuine thought. But with a cheerful smile, she had simply called it a secret. Back in the present, the elder makes Zaid an unexpected offer, to stay. She explains that the village lost many of its people in the final war. In these uncertain times, she wants him to remain as their guardian. Zaid can only stare back, his mind reeling from the proposal. She adds that Nonoa's illness wasn't just exhaustion. She needs to stay. The elder explains that by staying, Nonoa will see a wider world. But Zaid refuses, worried his presence will only bring trouble to the village. The elder seems to accept his decision with a weary sigh. Then she casually drops the bill for the cure, 100 million gold. Zaid's brain once again short-circuits, unable to process the absurd number. She explains that a panacea made by the world's only high elf isn't exactly cheap. Her assistant adds that if he can't pay, he'll just have to work off the debt. Zaid is caught in a perfect financially devastating trap. Checkmate, you magnificent elven schemers. With a defeated groan, he realizes he has no other choice. Just then, a small voice calls out as Nonoa finally wakes from her fever. With a bright smile, Nonoa announces that she's hungry. Zaid's entire world narrows to the sight of his daughter, safe and sound. He gently places a massive hand on her head, a gesture of pure relief. Nonoa beams, her simple happiness a balm on his weary soul. With his resolve set, he accepts the elder's terms, agreeing to stay. They're given a new home, a slightly run-down house on the village outskirts. It's not much, but it's a place to call their own, a fixer-upper, to be generous. After a long day of work, Zaid collapses on the floor, utterly exhausted. But Nonoa sleeps peacefully in her bed, finally safe from harm. And for the first time in a long time, Zaid sleeps with a smile on his face. The next morning, Nonoa wakes up, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. She looks around, confused by her new, unfamiliar surroundings. Then she remembers. They've moved into their new, slightly dilapidated home. A butterfly flutters in through a crack in the wall, a small sign of life. It dances through the air, capturing the young girl's complete attention. Her face lights up with pure, innocent joy at the simple sight. The butterfly then drifts over to her father, still sleeping soundly on the floor. It lands gently on his nose, a delicate visitor on a monstrous canvas, which of course triggers a massive earth-shaking sneeze. So much for a peaceful morning. Nonoa can only watch, her moment of wonder completely shattered. Zaid is sent flying backwards by the sheer force of his own sneeze. A mighty roar escapes him, shaking the very foundations of their home. And just like that, their new house is reduced to a pile of splinters. So much for that security deposit. Meanwhile, two elves walk together through the quiet forest. Alicia and her companion discuss the village's newest and largest resident. Back at the clinic, the elder gives her assistant, Estelle, a new task. Estelle is ordered to guide Zaid and teach him the village rules, much to her dismay. The gossip has already spread as Alicia's friend recounts the unbelievable story. She points out that Zaid protected them all, suggesting he might not be so scary. But Alicia is not convinced, calling her friend far too optimistic. She admits that many, including herself, are still not convinced by the elder's decision. But their debate is cut short by a sudden deafening crash echoing from the village. They both whip around, wondering what could have possibly made that sound. Alicia's eyes widen in panic, fearing the orc is on a destructive rampage. Without a second thought, the two elves race towards the commotion. They arrive not to a battle, but to a scene of complete and utter ruin. The two can only stare at the pile of rubble where a house once stood. Alicia is horrified, realizing it was the orc's new home that's been destroyed. The last few pieces of the structure crumble to the ground. Well, that was a short-lived mortgage. Amidst the wreckage, Zaid scratches his head sheepishly as Nonoa laughs her head off. Nonoa finds the whole situation absolutely hilarious, rolling in the debris. Alicia's friend asks for an explanation, trying to make sense of the chaos. With a giant smile, Nonoa explains that her dad sneezed the house apart. As one does. The two elves are left speechless, their worst fears replaced by sheer confusion. Zaid stands over the rubble as Nonoa hides behind his leg, the moment's humor fading. She peeks out nervously, realizing they have company. Alicia still seems suspicious, wondering if they're just squatters in their own wreckage. Zaid gently pats his daughter's head, a silent reassurance between them. He explains to Nonoa that these are the people who cured her illness. He then asks her to properly greet the elves who saved her life. With a determined look, Nonoa declares that she can do it. But she's still just a small child, standing nervously beside her father's leg. Taking a deep breath, she introduces herself as Nonoa, age 4. She then gives a surprisingly formal bow, taking the elves completely by surprise. The two are instantly disarmed, their suspicion melting away in a wave of cuteness. Alicia's friend praises her manners, introducing herself as Estelle and her sister Alicia. Estelle offers a warm smile, welcoming the little girl to the village. Nonoa's face lights up, her simple joy absolutely infectious. Even the hardened Alicia can't help but blush, her warrior resolve completely shattered. Turns out her greatest weakness wasn't a demon lord, but a polite 4-year-old. Alicia snaps at her sister, questioning how she could be so easily charmed. Her hand tightens on her hilt, vowing to remain vigilant against the unknown threat. But Estelle explains the elder has tasked her with guiding them through the forest. Her expression is firm, leaving no room for argument on the matter. Zaid stands ready, a silent giant awaiting his instructions. He gives a quiet nod, accepting his new role without a single word. Their journey takes them into the aptly named Forest of Blessings. The two elves lead the way, with Zaid and Nonoa following close behind. Estelle begins to explain the elven way of life, a people who live in harmony with nature. She describes their rules for hunting, a system built on respect and balance. Nonoa excitedly points out a rabbit, and Estelle agrees that it's absolutely adorable. But Nonoa's next comment about its delicious brain leaves Estelle sweating bullets. Changing the subject, Estelle explains that while hunting is restricted, foraging is perfectly fine. She leads them to a clearing filled with a wide variety of wild mushrooms. Alicia decides to test Zaid, asking if he can tell which of two mushrooms is poisonous. Zaid takes the fungi, giving them a brief, serious inspection. Then he just pops both of them into his mouth, much to the elves' absolute horror. He calmly declares that both are edible, while Alicia insists one is deadly. Estelle panics, shouting that one of those mushrooms contains a toxin strong enough to kill a bear. But Alicia suddenly recalls an old adventurer's tale, that orcs are completely immune to poison. Zaid explains that while he can eat anything, he wants Nonoa to learn what's safe. Alicia is stunned by his simple fatherly request. Her expression hardens as she agrees to teach them properly. And so their unlikely lesson in elven foraging begins. But their peaceful walk through the woods is not going unnoticed. Two other elves watch from the shadows, their faces twisted with scorn for the demon. Nonoa's first taste of wild berries is a sour, face-puckering experience. Estelle then leads them to an orchard, a much sweeter alternative. They even find a flower field where Zaid is forced to embrace his inner child. He looks thrilled. As the days pass, the seasons begin to turn in the elven lands. Their journey eventually leads them to the banks of a clear, flowing river. Estelle suggests they stop for lunch since the river is full of fish. Nonoa runs ahead, completely at ease with her new elven friends. She turns to her father, asking him to catch them something to eat. The elves are a bit confused, wondering how an orc plans to go about fishing. Without a word, Zaid wades into the cold, rushing water. He raises a massive hand, preparing for a rather unconventional fishing method. His eyes glow with an intense, almost terrifying focus. With a mighty roar, he slams his fist down into the river. Because why use a fishing rod when you can just punch the entire river into submission? The shockwave stuns every fish in the immediate vicinity, leaving them floating helplessly. Estelle is amazed by the massive catch, while Alicia questions if an orc can even cook. Zaid turns back, announcing that the meal is ready with grim satisfaction. He presents his signature dish, the Stargazy Hamburg. Yes, that's a thing now. It's a patty of minced fish, bones and all, with the head sticking out for decoration. The two elves can only scream in absolute, unfiltered culinary terror. But Nonoa proudly offers the dish to Alicia, telling her to enjoy. Alicia is handed the plate, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated dread. She forces a smile, sweating profusely as she stares down at the monstrous meal. Nonoa just beams, waiting expectantly for her to take the first bite. Alicia tries her best to look grateful, but her smile is pure, unfiltered pain. With the courage of a seasoned warrior, she takes a single, fateful bite. Her body immediately rejects the decision, shaking as she struggles to swallow. She's overwhelmed by the texture of crushed bones and the raw taste of fish guts. Turning to Zaid, she declares that what he's made cannot possibly be called cooking. Estelle is even more horrified, screaming that this is an insult to life itself. Zaid is completely taken aback, his signature dish apparently not a crowd pleaser. But Nonoa happily munches away, asking if they think it's delicious. Estelle frantically tries to explain to the girl that her palate has been deceived. Taking charge, she declares she will cook a proper meal and orders Zaid to get more fish. Estelle demonstrates how to properly clean and prepare the fish. She grinds wild herbs and spices, creating a fragrant marinade. The fillets are carefully seasoned, absorbing the elven flavors. She grills them over the fire, creating a perfect crispy skin. With a final expert flourish, the meal is finally complete. The result is a masterpiece. Herb-grilled trout, a dish fit for royalty. Nonoa stares at the food, her mind struggling to comprehend this new reality. Her eyes swirl with hunger, a single drop of drool escaping her lips. So much for brand loyalty to Dad's cooking. Estelle proudly presents the meal, as even Alicia is captivated by the aroma. Nonoa doesn't hesitate, stuffing her face with the delicious fish. Her entire universe is rewritten by the simple concept of flavor. A horrifying truth dawns on her. Her father's cooking was, in fact, terrible. Zaid is equally stunned, his culinary pride shattered in an instant. Nonoa abandons all loyalty, devouring the properly cooked meal with gusto. The plate is wiped completely clean, a testament to Estelle's skill. With a tear of pure bliss, Nonoa lets out a sigh of utter satisfaction. The inevitable food coma hits and she passes out on her father's lap. The elves can only smile, noting how much the little girl managed to eat. With their tour complete, Estelle suggests it's time to head back to the village. Zaid carries his sleeping daughter as they make their way home through the woods. As they walk back through the forest, Zaid carries his sleeping daughter, lost in thought. He quietly apologizes for his rather unique culinary skills. Alicia turns back, confused by his sudden and unexpected apology. His mind flashes back to Daria, who had always seemed to enjoy his cooking. Turns out the hero had a very specific palate, preferring fresh innards to bland army rations. Estelle is the one who apologizes, feeling guilty for dismissing his culture so quickly. Zaid looks down at his sleeping daughter, a new resolve forming in his eyes. He admits that as an orc, he can't raise Nonoa as a proper human on his own, but he knows she has human blood and deserves the chance to live that life. The two elves are stunned into silence, hearing the heart of a true father. He asks Alicia to teach him the ways of humans, from their food to their clothes. He wants Nonoa to have a choice, to be raised with knowledge of both her worlds. Estelle happily agrees, reminding them that they are all villagers now. But Alicia's expression darkens, her mind pulled back into a painful memory. She remembers her father's promise to return from the war, a promise he never kept. She grits her teeth, muttering about how selfish it was for him to leave. Zaid senses the sudden shift in her mood, his concern growing. Alicia's grief finally boils over into pure, unadulterated rage. She screams at Zaid, accusing him of being the one who killed her father. Well, that escalated quickly. The sudden outburst startles Nonoa awake, her eyes wide with fear. Nonoa's eyes are wide with terror, the happy moment completely shattered. The accusation hangs heavy in the air, a sudden chasm between them. The little girl bursts into tears, frightened by the sudden hostility. But Alicia is crying too, her rage fueled by a deep, unending grief. She stands her ground, every muscle tensed for a fight she's wanted for years. Estelle quickly steps in, apologizing for startling the child. She tries to explain Alicia's pain, reminding him that her father was once a child too. Zaid listens, his own expression unreadable but his focus absolute. He finally speaks, understanding now how precious that lost father was to her. But Nonoa can only cling to her own father, overwhelmed by the raw emotion. Sometime later, under the shadow of a distant snow-capped mountain, Alicia sits alone in the forest, consumed by the weight of her actions. She whispers that she's the worst, ashamed of her outburst in front of a child. But her sister's voice cuts through the silence, trying to offer some comfort. Suddenly, they're surrounded by a crowd of grim-faced villagers. Alicia is stunned, demanding to know why they've all gathered here. One of the elves admits they were stalking Zaid, planning to kill him in the woods. The cold-blooded confession leaves Alicia completely speechless. The woman from the dungeon mob cries out. Her own family lost to the demon war, but the lead elf admits that in the end, they couldn't bring themselves to attack. Alicia's expression softens, her anger replaced by stunned realization. He explains that after watching Zaid with his daughter, they understood his love. Tears well up in Alicia's eyes, her own grief mirrored in his devotion. Another villager admits they saw themselves in him, a father protecting his child. Lost and ashamed, they ask what they're supposed to do now. Alicia looks at them, her resolve hardening into a new kind of leadership. She covers her face, overwhelmed by the weight of her own prejudice. Taking a deep breath, she asks the villagers to listen to her proposal. Sometime later, the sun rises over the distant snow-capped peaks. Zaid and Nonoa stand together, waiting at the edge of the forest. Nonoa looks up in surprise, wondering what's happening at the edge of the woods. Before them stands their home, miraculously rebuilt from the pile of splinters. Zaid notes that it's only the exterior that's been completed so far. A crowd of villagers, led by Alicia, explains that the inside is still empty. Nonoa instinctively hides behind her father, a bit overwhelmed by the crowd. She peeks out nervously, unsure of what to make of all the attention. Alicia steps forward, her voice filled with regret as she apologizes for yesterday's outburst. The other elves follow suit, admitting that they too were in the wrong. They present the house as a token of their gratitude and a formal welcome to the village. The lead elf asks him to please accept their gesture of peace. Zaid's gaze is intense as he asks if they can truly forgive him. Alicia is caught off guard, questioning if he means her specifically. Surrounded by her people, she admits that she simply doesn't know. But she explains they didn't want to be adults who curse a parent before a child. Nonoa looks on, her wide eyes taking in every single word. A villager offers them a place to stay with the elder while the house is rebuilt. Another promises to build a home that's completely sneeze-proof this time. Zaid stands silently as Nonoa continues to hide behind his leg. But then, the little girl finds her voice and steps forward to get their attention. With a massive smile, she shouts her thanks for fixing their home. Alicia bows deeply, completely overwhelmed by the child's simple, heartfelt thanks. The other villagers can only watch, their own prejudices shattered by Nonoa's innocence. Estelle beams, her eyes tearing up at this beautiful, unexpected moment of unity. With thanks and apologies exchanged, the village gets to work on their new home. Zaid is put on firewood duty, a simple task for a creature of his immense strength. He casually snaps a thick log in half with his bare hands. No axe required. He tosses the pieces aside, his movements efficient and almost mechanical. The pile of kindling grows at an astonishing rate. Guess they won't be cold this winter. Two of the elves who had once plotted against him watch from a safe distance. They're in awe, admitting that he works with the speed and strength of 10 elves combined. The elves ask Zaid for another favor, to help carry building materials. Zaid lets out a weary sigh, his day of manual labor apparently far from over. But he obliges, hoisting an entire stack of logs onto his shoulders with ease. The two elves can only watch, stunned by his monstrous, almost comical strength. One of them smiles, realizing that with Zaid's help, rebuilding will be a breeze. But their work hasn't gone unnoticed by a small, curious observer. It's Cress, Alicia's younger brother, watching the giant with wide, innocent eyes. He approaches Zaid, his voice filled with a quiet, nervous admiration. The boy remembers the battle, the moment Zaid single-handedly defeated the lich. With a determined look, Cress declares he wants to be just like Zaid when he grows up. He asks Zaid to take him on as an apprentice, wanting to learn the secret to his strength. Zaid turns around, his expression suddenly fierce and intimidating. The boy is immediately terrified by the intense, almost bestial glare. But Zaid is just confused, while Cress is a flustered, blushing mess. The boy hides, realizing he's still too scared to even approach the giant. Just then, a group of villagers calls out to Zaid, interrupting the moment. The one-eyed elf explains they found signs of a dangerous creature on their patrol. He describes a ferocious monster known as a greed grizzly, whose den is nearby. Another elf adds that this beast isn't native, likely a stray from a northern dungeon. The veteran warrior grimly states that a single one could destroy the forest's ecosystem. The elf admits that while Alicia is their usual go-to, Zaid is the only one who can guarantee a one-punch victory. Without even breaking his stride, Zaid simply agrees to handle the problem. The elves tell him to go on ahead, assuring him they'll take care of the lumber. But from the cover of the trees, Cress watches the entire exchange unfold. He and another elf boy are practically vibrating with excitement at the news. Cress is determined. He absolutely has to see the legendary orc in action. He hesitates for a moment, knowing his sister would be furious if he went alone. But he steels his resolve, deciding he can't be strong if he's afraid of the woods. With his mind made up, he races after his new hero to learn the ways of strength. But another pair of eyes has noticed the pursuit. Nonoa, watching with quiet concern. Nonoa's eyes widen with a sudden brilliant idea. She explains to Cress's friend that her dad is just playing a game of statues. With that settled, she declares she wants to play too and races into the woods. Meanwhile, Cress notices the forest has fallen eerily silent around them. Zaid stops in a clearing, his entire body on high alert. His eyes glow, his senses scanning for the unseen threat. He finds his first clue, a massive boulder shredded by colossal claws. Cress watches from the trees, stunned by the sheer power of the beast. Zaid understands now. This is why the forest animals are all in hiding. So he sits down on the rock to wait, casually reading a letter, as one does. But it's not a letter he's reading, it's a small, neatly organized case. Cress watches from the trees, certain the orc is preparing a secret weapon. The boy's mind races, trying to guess what kind of legendary armament he's about to see. Zaid pulls out two long, thin sticks, which are definitely not swords. Cress's jaw drops as the legendary warrior begins to calmly knit in the middle of the woods. He remembers Estelle's advice that knowing how to knit is a surprisingly useful skill. And so Zaid works diligently, his massive hands moving with unexpected grace. Cress is utterly baffled, watching him treat the beast's den like his own living room. He recalls the tales, a grizzly whose claws shred iron and whose hide deflects cannonballs. Just then, a rustle in the tall grass signals the arrival of their deadly quarry. A small rabbit cautiously peeks its head out from the tall grass. Instead of a monster, it finds Zaid calmly knitting, surrounded by other creatures. Birds and squirrels flock to him, completely unafraid of the giant in their midst. Cress is baffled, wondering why the animals are suddenly emerging from hiding. Zaid remains completely focused, his expression one of quiet concentration. The boy realizes the animals aren't afraid, they're relying on Zaid for protection. He sees not a monster, but a figure of calm, dependable strength. In that moment, Cress believes he's seeing what it truly means to be a man. But his quiet moment of reflection is interrupted by a familiar, mischievous face. Nonoa pounces, shouting her victory and shattering the forest's peaceful silence. Cress is completely flustered, demanding to know why Nonoa followed him. She explains that she saw him playing a game with her dad and wanted to join. The boy is confused, realizing she's been tailing him this entire time. But their childish argument is cut short by an ominous rustle in the grass. Nonoa calls out to her father as a massive shadow falls over them both. Cress panics, terrified of getting in trouble for leading her into danger. And then it appears, the Greed Grizzly, a mountain of muscle and fury. The beast towers over the two children, its presence suffocating the forest. Cress screams that it's not human, a fact Nonoa seems to have already grasped. With eyes glowing white, the monster lets out a world-shaking roar. Cress is completely paralyzed by fear, collapsing to the ground. But Nonoa seems unfazed, much to Cress's panicked disbelief. The boy's mind screams at him to run before they both become lunch. But instead of running, Nonoa lets out a fierce roar of her own. The 4-year-old stands her ground, challenging a beast 10 times her size. The Greed Grizzly is not impressed, its eyes glowing with murderous intent. Cress can only watch, his courage completely abandoning him. His mind races, knowing they are both hopelessly outmatched. But then his hand finds something familiar, a small wooden staff. With a surge of adrenaline, Cress finds his feet, ready to protect Nonoa. With all his might, Cress unleashes his most powerful spell, a fireball. It explodes on impact, hitting the grizzly with all the force of a party popper. Nonoa can only stare, her expression a perfect mix of shock and disappointment. Cress screams at her to run, to get to her father while he holds the beast off. But his magic only enraged the monster, which brings a massive claw down upon him. The boy is frozen solid, the shadow of death falling over him. He can't even comprehend the speed of the attack, his mind blank with terror. He desperately tries to cast a shield spell, his last line of defense. But it's too late. The grizzly's eyes promise nothing but a swift and brutal end. Until a blur of motion intercepts the blow, as Zaid appears to shield the boy from harm. Zaid's arm meets the grizzly's claw, stopping the attack dead in its tracks. He stands as an unbreakable wall, absorbing the full force of the blow. While Cress is frozen in tearful shock, Nonoa cheers for her dad's big entrance. The Greed Grizzly recoils, stunned that its attack was so easily blocked. Its surprise quickly turns to pure, unbridled rage. The two titans trade blows, a brutal exchange of raw power. Zaid is pushed back, but his stance remains firm against the onslaught. The grizzly begins to falter, its breath heavy and its body trembling. Zaid's eyes glow with intensity. He's decided this fight is over. He unleashes a single devastating punch that connects with brutal finality. The grizzly's eye implodes, a testament to the overwhelming force of the blow. Its massive body dissolves into dust, the threat neutralized in a single strike. Zaid turns back to the children, his only concern being if they are unharmed. Cress is still on the ground, his mind struggling to grasp that he's been saved. But his relief is quickly replaced by a wave of crushing, tearful humiliation. The young elf realizes he was so terrified, he completely lost his composure. Sometime later, Cress's clothes are left to dry by a riverside fire. The boy stands in the water trying to wash away his shame and embarrassment. He whispers that he's a disgrace, his dream of strength feeling further than ever. So much for being a stoic warrior. Zaid approaches, cutting through the silence with a simple question. Why did he follow him? Cress stands wrapped in a towel, unable to meet Zaid's gaze. He finally admits that he wanted to be strong, just like the orc standing before him. He saw Zaid as the ultimate protector, a pillar of strength for his daughter. With his father gone, he feels it's his duty to protect his family now. Zaid can only stare back, confused by the request to be his apprentice. Guess he's not taking applications. But Cress's resolve crumbles, declaring that it's impossible for someone like him. Tears stream down his face as he calls himself a pathetic coward who wets himself. But Zaid cuts through his self-pity, stating that he doesn't see it that way at all. The boy looks up, completely stunned by the unexpected response. Zaid's gaze is intense as he reminds Cress of one simple fact. He protected Nonoa. Nonoa excitedly praises Cress, completely in awe of his fireball. But Cress is still dejected, believing he ultimately accomplished nothing. But Zaid explains that a man's true strength isn't power, but courage. The boy looks up, his entire worldview shifting in an instant. He places a hand on the boy's head, offering his genuine thanks for protecting his daughter. He tells Cress to stop stalking him and just come over to play next time. The young elf is moved to tears, his shame replaced by pure joy. Cress eagerly accepts his new master, a position Zaid never actually applied for. Back in the village, their new sneeze-proof home stands complete. Zaid stands before the elder and Alicia, his mission officially complete. The elder thanks him for his hard work, impressed by his efficiency. Alicia then apologizes for her brother causing so much trouble, but Zaid asks her not to be too harsh, reminding her that Cress is still a man. Alicia is once again stunned by his simple yet profound perspective. Estelle agrees, promising to deliver a scolding that's firm but fair. The elder then declares that Zaid's strength is wasted on simple village chores. She has a new proposal, for him to become an adventurer in the city. Zaid's mind once again blue screens, unable to process this sudden career change. Their destination is a bustling human city, a world away from their quiet village. And their method of travel is a high-speed, elven-grade teleportation circle. They materialize in a flash of light, standing in the middle of a bustling city street. Estelle smiles, welcoming him to the port city of Croft. She explains it was once a military port, now a thriving center of trade and commerce. But with so much money and so many people, trouble is never far behind. With the national army weakened by war, adventurers are needed to keep the peace. This is where Zaid comes in. His new job is to become one of those adventurers. Zaid is hesitant, wondering if an orc would even be accepted in such a role. But Estelle assures him she's already thought of a solution for his public relations problem. She presents him with a custom-made helmet, designed to hide his identity completely. Now a mysterious armored giant, Zaid is ready to begin his new life as an adventurer. Estelle explains his new persona, a shy warrior named Shy. Originality is clearly not her strong suit. She warns him to never remove the helmet, as it hides a terrible war scar. Their first stop is an elven magic shop in the heart of the city. Estelle asks him to wait outside while she runs a quick errand for Alicia. She promises to be right back and disappears into the shop. Zaid is left alone, a silent, armored mountain in a sea of bustling citizens. He quickly realizes that a 7-foot-tall man in a bucket helmet isn't exactly blending in. His attention is drawn to a commotion nearby, where a group of thugs are harassing a young woman. The leader sneers at her, claiming he was just being friendly. His friends back him up, demanding she show some respect to their boss. The woman flinches as the thug leader grabs her chin, her fear palpable. He introduces himself as Gino, a B-rank adventurer with an ego to match. He points to a scar on his face, claiming it's a trophy from the Great War. He declares he fought to protect people like her and now demands her gratitude. She stammers that she is thankful, but tries to explain that she's on the clock. But Gino isn't interested in excuses. He wants her to show her appreciation. He leans in for a forced kiss, his intentions disgustingly clear, until a massive armored hand clamps down on his face, stopping him cold. The thug turns, furious at the sudden and unwelcome interruption. He comes face to face with the silent, imposing figure of Zaid. Guess he picked the wrong day to be a creep. Gino is completely stunned, demanding to know who this armored freak is. Zaid ignores him, telling the frightened woman to leave while she has the chance. He releases his grip, letting the thug stumble back into the street. Gino's crew surrounds the silent giant, demanding an explanation for his interference. Zaid taps his helmet, as if pained to have to state the obvious. He calmly explains that the woman was clearly not interested in Gino's advances. The public humiliation hits Gino like a physical blow, his tough guy act crumbling. He tries to bluster his way out, but the crowd's laughter only fuels his rage. With his pride shattered, Gino draws his sword, ready to lash out. He unleashes his fury not on Zaid, but on an innocent wooden crate. That'll teach it. The crowd stares at the splinters, stunned by his childish tantrum. Gino turns on Zaid, warning him not to get cocky just because he's big. He orders his crew to surround the silent giant, ready to escalate things. His two goons draw their daggers, clearly not the brightest bulbs in the box. But Zaid remains completely still, an unmovable, unreadable iron wall. Just then, Estelle emerges from the shop, demanding to know what's happening. She scolds Gino, calling his behavior a disgrace to all adventurers. Gino can only scowl, his tough guy act completely falling apart. With a click of his tongue, he reluctantly sheathes his weapon. He turns and walks away, leaving Estelle to deal with the aftermath. But Gino can't leave without a parting shot, muttering a vile insult about demi-humans. Estelle is left speechless, her face flushed with pure, unadulterated rage. With the confrontation over, she and Zaid continue on their way through the city. Estelle apologizes for leaving him alone, asking if her interference was unwelcome. But Zaid admits that honestly, her timing was a huge help. She smiles, assuming he's just being modest about his own capabilities. Zaid clarifies. The thug was so weak he was worried he'd accidentally kill him. The brutally honest explanation sends Estelle into a fit of genuine laughter. As they walk, she asks if he's really okay, not saying anything back to the bully. Her expression turns serious, concerned by his stoic silence in the face of such hate. Zaid explains that it's a common occurrence, especially since the war. He tells her that if he let every insult get to him, he'd never find peace. Their next stop is the Croft branch of the Adventurers Guild. They're greeted by a cheerful wave as they step inside the guild hall. A man with a prominent mustache greets them, having been waiting for their arrival. He explains they're desperate for help and have been waiting for this new recruit. He then realizes this must be the man from Alicia's report, Zaid, who defeated the bandit leader. The man sizes him up, noting his inhuman physique despite the lack of magic. He then jokes that Zaid is built like an orc or a troll. If only he knew. He gets down to business, asking why Zaid wants to become an adventurer. Zaid explains his simple motivation. He has a 4-year-old daughter to provide for. The guildmaster asks about his wife, but Zaid reveals she's passed away. The man is taken aback, wondering if Zaid will be lonely without his child. Estelle steps in, clarifying that Zaid won't be living in the city. She'll be his personal teleportation service. The guildmaster agrees that the commute is no issue and begins the paperwork. But there's one last thing. His expression shifts, his gaze becoming sharp and calculating. Estelle senses the change, a bead of sweat forming on her brow. The guildmaster asks if Zaid would be willing to do a proper interview. He points out the obvious problem. He can't very well interview a man in a bucket. Estelle's plan hits its first major snag, as Zaid's secret identity is already at risk. Zaid sticks to the script, claiming he's just too shy to remove the helmet. The guildmaster and Estelle can only stare at the mountain of a man before them. The guildmaster absolutely loses it, bursting into a fit of uncontrollable laughter. He finds the idea of a shy giant completely hilarious, calling Zaid an interesting character. With that, he declares that Zaid has officially passed the interview. Well, that was easy, but there's still the matter of a practical exam to prove his strength. He suggests a mock battle with Alicia, an idea Estelle happily accepts. But before she can finish, a voice cuts through the conversation, telling them to wait. A new adventurer steps out from the shadows, his expression oozing with arrogance. He offers to be Zaid's opponent, claiming a fight with Alicia wouldn't be a real test. Estelle recognizes the man as Gino, the same thug from the street. The guildmaster considers the proposal, ultimately agreeing to the new arrangement. The city's clock tower marks the passage of time as the stage is set. In the guild's courtyard, the two opponents face each other with practice swords in hand. Gino smirks, his arrogance practically radiating off him as he sizes up the silent giant. Zaid remains perfectly still, his helmeted gaze revealing nothing of his thoughts. The guildmaster lays down the ground rules, reminding them this is just a mock battle. With a sharp chop of his hand, he officially begins the match. Gino explodes into motion, charging forward with a ferocious battle cry. He closes the distance in an instant, while Zaid stands like a statue, completely unfazed. Estelle watches with a confident smile, certain Gino is no match for an orc. But her expression softens, hoping Zaid will at least go easy on him. Gino unleashes a flurry of blows, his sword clanging uselessly against Zaid's body. The armored giant doesn't even flinch, weathering the storm without a single step back. The guildmaster and Estelle watch in disbelief as Gino completely fails to make a dent. Zaid finally raises his own weapon, his patience apparently at an end. With a single, effortless motion, he parries the blow and knocks Gino off balance. The thug's arrogant smirk vanishes, replaced by pure, unadulterated shock. Zaid brings his sword down, not to strike, but to mock the thug's pathetic stance. He tilts his head as if wondering if this is really the best the guild has to offer. Estelle looks on, asking Zaid if he's having some kind of trouble. But Zaid is just worried he'll break his opponent if he actually fights back. Estelle is a flustered mess, while the guildmaster misreads the situation entirely. Gino recovers, calling the silent giant nothing more than a useless block of wood. He sneers that a coward like Zaid has no right to call himself an adventurer. Gripping his sword, he declares that this is no longer a simple test. He leaps into the air, bringing his blade down with everything he's got. The sword connects squarely with Zaid's helmet with a deafening clang. But the armored giant doesn't even budge, taking the full force of the blow without a scratch. Estelle and the guildmaster can only watch in horror, screaming for the fight to stop. Estelle screams that he doesn't have to defeat Gino, just show his strength. But the full-force blow has left a thin crack down the center of his helmet. With his cover blown, Zaid removes the helmet, revealing his true face to the terrified thug. His expression is grim, his secret identity now exposed to the entire guild. But his mind is on one thing, the smiling face of his daughter. He remembers her cheers, her unwavering belief in his incredible strength. With that thought, he casually tosses the wooden practice sword aside. He takes a single step forward, the ground cracking under the sheer force of his presence. Gino can only tremble, finally understanding the monster he's provoked. The thug tries to maintain his bravado, asking if Zaid still wants to go. Yeah, I think he does, buddy. Gino unleashes a desperate, furious barrage of strikes against the silent giant. But each blow lands with all the impact of a gentle tap. Zaid doesn't even seem to notice the pathetic assault. The wooden practice sword can't handle the strain and shatters completely. Gino is left holding nothing but a splintered hilt and a shattered ego. He pants heavily, his mind refusing to accept what just happened. His shot quickly curdles into pure, desperate rage. He reaches for a real weapon, a dagger sheathed at his hip. With a final scream, he lunges forward and drives the blade into Zaid's chest. The guildmaster can only watch in horror, realizing the thug has just signed his own death warrant. Gino unleashes a desperate, fiery attack, screaming with rage. The blast engulfs Zaid, who stands completely unfazed by the attack. The guildmaster is speechless, realizing the thug didn't even leave a scratch. Zaid finally retaliates, grabbing the terrified adventurer by his collar. With his helmet back on, Zaid calmly states that he understands now. Gino dangles helplessly, completely baffled by the giant's strange words. He hoists the thug high above his head, ready to end this little spat. And with a single powerful toss, he sends Gino flying into the air. Team Rocket would be proud. The thug's brain finally catches up, realizing he's currently flying through the air. He vanishes into a pinpoint of light, his journey apparently far from over. Gino's mind struggles to comprehend his sudden, violent ascent. He soars over the city, a human projectile with a terrible view. The thug screams in pure terror, begging for the flight to end. He looks down at the cobblestone streets waiting far, far below. The ground rushes up to meet him with terrifying speed. He plummets head first, his short, pathetic life flashing before his eyes. His screams echo through the air as gravity claims its prize, but just before impact, a familiar hand snatches him from his fate. Well, that's one way to teach a lesson. Zaid holds him upside down, asking if he'd like to go for another round. Gino is completely broken, his brain short-circuiting from the experience. Gino lies twitching on the ground, his mind completely shattered by the experience. The guildmaster, however, finds the whole display absolutely hilarious. He marvels at Zaid's raw power, questioning if he's even human to throw a man that high. Zaid can only stand there, the silent, imposing figure of a very shy human. The guildmaster and Estelle share a laugh, completely charmed by their new recruit. But his amusement gives way to a professional assessment. Zaid's strength and defense are flawless. He declares that having someone this reliable is a huge relief for the guild. In fact, he already has a job in mind for the two of them. Zaid and Estelle listen intently, their first official mission about to begin. Their task is simple: escort a merchant safely to the royal capital. The guildmaster explains their client is the influential St. Cross Church. He stresses that this is a high-stakes mission, requiring the guild's full support. Their destination is a grand estate, a symbol of the church's immense power. But back at the village, Zaid and Nonoa are interrupted by a sudden visit. Nonoa peeks out nervously, unsure of the two elves at their door. Alicia and Estelle whisper, wondering if they've stumbled upon a burglar. Wait, what? Zaid pats his daughter's head, preparing her for a very important mission. He explains that people are struggling with a difficult choice: buying Volume 1. He asks his daughter if she can help them make the right decision. Nonoa eagerly accepts, ready to launch her own promotional campaign. And scene? Nonoa stands at attention, a tiny soldier ready for her orders. She announces the release of Kozure Orc Volume 1 on August 12th. Yes, this is actually happening. With a deep bow, she formally asks the two elves for their patronage. The attack is super effective. Alicia and Estelle are completely overwhelmed by the cuteness. They praise her excellent sales pitch, reminding everyone it's available in print and digital. Estelle is so moved that she promises to buy 10 copies on the spot. Noah beams her adorable marketing campaign a complete success. Even the usually stoic Alicia can't resist, her face flushed with a happy blush. She's completely flustered, her brain short-circuiting from the sheer charm. But her mind snaps back to business, wondering what special bonuses the physical copy might have. Her hand clenches into a fist, her resolve hardening into a new kind of mission. She declares that she's heard of store-exclusive bonuses and must investigate immediately. Her expression is one of intense focus, her priorities now crystal clear. The scene then cuts to a new, imposing figure, a powerful boar man. His eyes glow with a quiet intensity, a warrior through and through. Sometime later, their escort mission begins, a lone carriage traveling a forest road. Inside, Zaid is crammed between two beastkin, a ride clearly not designed for comfort. They meet with their client, a merchant whose worried expression says it all. He explains the danger. A fire dragon has settled in the mountains, already attacking a caravan. The news is a shock as Zaid wonders where such a powerful beast came from. The merchant explains these dragons were once used for war, but went feral after the conflict ended. Their mission is to secure the road for a bishop's visit, but their target is a 20-meter S-rank beast. The other adventurers are already preparing for a subjugation, but they only have 1 week. Estelle is shocked. Seems the guildmaster left out a few key details.
She explains their current strategy: avoid the lair and set up defenses along the route.
Zaid remains silent, the cracked helmet hiding his expression as he processes the grim reality. Estelle turns to him, sensing his quiet contemplation. She asks what's on his mind, concerned by his lack of response. Zaid finally speaks, cutting straight to the point. Does he need to kill it or just drive it away? Estelle clarifies that simply securing the route is enough. They don't need to slay the beast. Estelle explains that dragons are intelligent. Once driven off, they won't return. But she admits that a full subjugation is their best bet, though nearly impossible on their timeline. Zaid simply acknowledges the plan, his expression hidden by his helmet. With their course set, the two adventurers ride on towards the mountain pass. Estelle glances over, wondering if even an orc feels a flicker of fear before facing a dragon. But their journey is cut short as the horses suddenly panic, rearing in terror. In the distance, a thick column of black smoke rises ominously into the sky. Estelle's eyes widen in horror. The smoke is coming from their base camp. Without a second's hesitation, she whips the reins, pushing the horses to a desperate gallop. They arrive to find a scene of utter devastation, the camp completely destroyed. The scene is one of total carnage, with bodies strewn across the ruined camp. Estelle can only stare in horror, unable to process the massacre before them. She leaps into action, shouting that they need to find and help the wounded. The horned beastkin warrior stands ready, his gaze scanning the battlefield. Estelle rushes to the side of a fallen adventurer, hoping to find survivors. The man is barely conscious, mistaking her for Alicia as she prepares to heal him. But with his last strength, he grabs her arm, screaming for her to run. He warns her that the beast is still here and her blood runs cold. A monstrous shadow falls over her, reflected in her terrified eyes. The fire dragon reveals itself, a mountain of muscle and rage standing right behind her. The fire dragon towers over the fallen, its gaze fixed on Estelle. Its eyes glow with a cold, predatory intelligence, a hunter in its element. Estelle realizes it appeared without a sound, using advanced magic to mask its presence. This is no mere beast, it's a weapon of war trained for slaughter. Its eyes flare as it prepares to unleash its devastating power. Estelle throws up a desperate shield, her only line of defense. The dragon's maw opens wide, ready to incinerate everything in its path. But she knows instantly that her magic won't be enough to stop it. She can only watch, frozen by the certainty of her own demise. Until a familiar armored figure shoves her out of the line of fire. Looks like Zaid's done waiting in the wings. But instead of Estelle, the dragon's jaws clamp down on Zaid himself. The beast struggles to swallow, its mouth forced open by the orc's incredible strength. Estelle can only scream his name, watching in horror as her protector is devoured. But a muffled voice from inside the dragon's maw calmly tells her that he's fine. With a surge of power, Zaid forces the colossal jaws apart from the inside. Estelle watches in disbelief as he simply steps out, completely unscathed. Guess he's not very digestible. The fire dragon's eyes narrow with pure, unadulterated fury. It rears back, gathering energy for a devastating breath attack. Estelle reacts instantly, conjuring a powerful force shield to defend them. The beam of raw energy slams into her magical barrier, a desperate defense against the monster's wrath. The shield cracks and shatters under the sheer force of the dragon's fire. Estelle struggles to hold on, her special barrier the only thing keeping them alive. The dragon watches, its attack seemingly successful in breaking their defense. But Estelle panics, realizing the beast is already preparing a second blast. Just then, Zaid steps in front of her, becoming a living shield. He simply tells her to leave this to him. No big deal, just a dragon. Estelle can only stare, completely baffled by his impossible confidence. The dragon unleashes another torrent of pure, destructive energy. But Zaid doesn't even move, taking the full force of the blast head on. The dragon is left utterly speechless, its mind unable to process what it's seeing. Estelle is in absolute disbelief, realizing he just nullified the attack with raw power. The dragon stares down its opponent, its rage now mixed with a hint of confusion. Zaid clenches his fist, his helmeted gaze fixed on his target. He winds up, channeling all his strength into a single decisive blow. For the first time, the beast seems to understand it's made a terrible mistake. It opens its maw for a desperate counterattack, but it's far too late. Zaid leaps into the air, a blur of muscle and determination. His fist connects with the dragon's jaw in a truly earth-shattering impact. The beast's head begins to dissolve on contact, unable to withstand the force. The dragon lets out a final scream as its body disintegrates into nothing. One-punch man indeed. The last of the dragon's head dissolves into particles of light. Its colossal, headless body begins its long fall back to earth. The tail slams into the ground, shaking the very mountainside. But the horned warrior poses beside it, as if claiming the victory for himself. Zaid turns to him, his helmet hiding a world of annoyance. He tells the man to stop bullying a tiny lizard he's passing off as the kill. Just then, another, even larger dragon lands before them with a deafening roar. But its roar quickly turns into a pathetic, high-pitched squeal of terror. The S-rank beast flees, wanting no part of the man who just killed its friend. Estelle can only stare, stammering that he scared it away without even moving. Sometime later, the adventurers set up a new camp to rest and recover. With the immediate threat gone, they celebrate their survival with a feast. The other adventurers toast their new hero, amazed by the rookie's power. The horned warrior tells everyone to enjoy themselves. They have plenty of supplies. A female warrior offers Zaid some food, telling him he can finally take off his helmet. But Zaid hesitates, his cracked helmet a reminder of his fragile secret. Estelle quickly jumps in, explaining that Zaid is just incredibly shy. Still sticking to the script, I see. Zaid covers his ears in embarrassment as the others try to coax him into eating. But from across the fire, the boar man watches him with an unreadable expression. Estelle's cover story shatters as she screams Zaid's name in pure shock. The other adventurers stare in disbelief, one of them pointing as he utters the word, "Orc?" But the boar man calmly speaks up, a piece of food still in his hand. He casually mentions that people often say he and Zaid look alike. The adventurer's shock quickly melts into utter confusion, and then the entire camp erupts into relieved, uproarious laughter. They joke about how startled they were, dismissing the idea of a demon helping them. One of them even remembers Alicia using the term, concluding it must just be a nickname. Estelle sweats bullets, laughing along and confirming the convenient misunderstanding. The campfire crackles, the night's tension finally dissipating with the flames. Later, as the others rest, the boar man sits alone, keeping a silent watch over the camp. The boar man enjoys a quiet drink, his watch finally over. He breaks the silence, asking Estelle if she has a moment to talk. Estelle looks over, a bit surprised by the sudden company. The boar warrior's expression is serious. This isn't just idle chatter. The two sit together, sharing a quiet moment by the crackling flames. Estelle offers her heartfelt thanks, relieved that no one died because of him. She muses that a dragon is small fry for the man who fought the legendary hero. Zaid remains silent, his gaze lost in the darkness beyond the camp. Guess he's not in a chatty mood. Estelle's expression turns to concern, asking why he seemed so troubled earlier. Zaid finally turns to her, his eyes holding a deep and unspoken weight. The boar man listens from afar, enjoying a quiet drink by the fire. Zaid explains his simple code. Enemies you can't reason with must be eliminated. But he reveals that military dragons can understand simple words. Estelle is completely floored. He was actually trying to de-escalate. He finishes by saying that unnecessary killing is a bad example for his daughter. She looks at him, her entire perception of the orc shifting once again. The tension breaks as she lets out a bright, genuine laugh. She takes a drink herself, completely won over by his logic. A dad's got a dad, even in a dragon fight. Her expression is one of pure admiration for the man beside her. With their mission a success, they return to the bustling streets of Croft. A well-dressed man with an air of authority stands waiting on a city street. A carriage approaches, its drivers bearing the insignia of the St. Cross Church. The man welcomes the carriage with open arms, greeting the long-distance travelers. A figure steps down, their arrival clearly an event of some importance. It is Bishop Burzel, a high-ranking official of the church, staff in hand. He offers a gentle, almost grandfatherly smile to his host. The two men exchange polite greetings, a formal meeting on a public street. The bishop expresses his gratitude for the personal welcome from the city's mayor. The mayor notes the bishop's humility, surprised he would come in person for a minor affair. He gets straight to the point, asking if there's an important reason for this visit. The bishop explains he's delivering a message from the new pope himself. It's a new interpretation of scripture, and his smile is anything but holy. Back in the village, a new arrangement is being made for Nonoa's future. The elder asks Zaid if she can teach Nonoa magic while he's away working. The boar warrior from their last mission is also present for the discussion. The elder notes that as Daria's daughter, Nonoa has immense latent magical power. She believes it's best to teach her how to control it sooner rather than later. The boar warrior agrees, entrusting the child to the elder's care. And so, Nonoa and Cress begin their first lesson with the powerful elven matriarch. Nonoa starts with the basics, asking what this magic thing even is. Cress explains magic, using his own fireball against the bear as a perfect example. The elder defines it as the power to rewrite the world with one's will. She demonstrates, filling the air with whimsical floating cloud creatures. Nonoa is completely captivated, eager to try her hand at magic herself. The elder agrees, stating their first lesson is to unseal Nonoa's potential. She asks Nonoa to bring over a potted plant, the first step in her training. The elder instructs her to close her eyes and visualize the energy within her. Nonoa holds the pot, ready to follow her teacher's instructions. She concentrates with all her might, her expression one of intense focus. The elder then tells her to channel that feeling from her hands into the pot. Nonoa squeezes her eyes shut, pouring every ounce of focus into the pot. A gentle light begins to emanate from her, swirling around the small child. In an instant, a tiny sapling bursts forth from the soil, growing before their very eyes. The elder smiles, telling her to now imagine a beautiful flower blooming. Nonoa's eyes fly open, a surge of power coursing through her. A halo of pure magical energy forms above her head. Guess she's a natural. The elder and Cress can only stare, their minds completely blown by the display. An incredible wave of power erupts from the tiny girl. The sapling explodes into a magnificent bouquet of fully bloomed lilies. And just like that, the entire clearing is covered in flowers. So much for a simple first lesson. Cress is completely floored, shouting that she made flowers bloom everywhere. Nonoa asks if she really did that, and the elder calmly confirms it. The elder explains that magic is the power of forcing your imagination onto the world. She tells Nonoa to look at her own hands to see the proof. Nonoa sees a shimmering aura of light rising from her palms. The elder explains that this power is now a part of her, ready to be controlled. She asks the young girl what kind of magic she'd like to try first. Nonoa's answer is simple and pure. She wants to heal the sick. The elder is completely taken aback by the unexpected response. A shadow of pain crosses her face, her eyes closing in solemn thought. The elder is deeply moved by the child's selfless wish. She remembers Nonoa's mother, a warrior she only taught how to fight, and so she agrees to teach Nonoa the simplest healing magic first. Meanwhile, in another village, life continues its quiet, steady pace. An elderly elf woman rests by the roadside, her body racked with pain. A younger man with a scarred face approaches, his expression full of concern. He asks if her chronic back pain is acting up again. She admits it's so bad she can barely walk to get medicine. The man kindly offers to carry her the rest of the way. But she politely refuses, insisting she can manage after a short rest. Their walk is interrupted by a familiar face who recognizes Nonoa as the orc's daughter. The elderly woman smiles through her pain, a gentle soul worn down by time. Nonoa's eyes widen with concern, asking if the woman is sick. The woman explains that even after 2 centuries, her body is full of aches. Nonoa breathes a sigh of relief, glad that it's nothing serious. Kid logic is undefeated. The woman is completely baffled by the child's strange reassurance. Cress proudly announces that Nonoa has just started her healing magic training. Nonoa's face lights up as she eagerly offers to put her new skills to the test. The woman is touched by the offer, but doubts a child's magic can help her. But Nonoa is undeterred, placing her hands on the woman's back to begin. Nonoa declares this is just a trial period, a free sample of her healing services. The woman is amused by her confidence and agrees to let her try. Nonoa gently takes the woman's hand, her expression full of gentle focus. The scarred man is still worried, asking her not to make the pain worse. But Cress reassures him, saying the elder herself praised Nonoa's skills. Nonoa gives a sweet, determined smile, ready to begin the treatment. A soft, magical aura begins to emanate from their joined hands. She closes her eyes, chanting a simple spell to make the pain go away. The woman smiles, the gesture reminding her of playing doctor as a child. But the light intensifies, a sign that this is no mere child's game. A brilliant flash of light erupts from Nonoa's hands, startling everyone nearby. The elderly woman's eyes go wide, feeling the potent magic course through her. The scarred man shouts in alarm, worried the child's magic has gone wrong. A strange vapor seems to rise from her body, as if the pain itself is being exorcised. She can only stare, completely at a loss for words at the sudden change. In a burst of energy, she leaps into the air, declaring her pain of 30 years has vanished. She marvels at how light she feels, a sensation she'd long since forgotten. The two men can only stare, their brains short-circuiting from the sheer impossibility of it all. The scarred man looks down at Nonoa, his expression unreadable. But Nonoa has already found her next patient, offering to heal his old wound. The man dismisses her offer, explaining the scar is an old war wound that's already healed. But before he can finish, another brilliant flash of light engulfs him. He touches his face in utter shock. The scar he's had for 7 years has vanished without a trace. Cress beams with pride, boasting about Nonoa's incredible talent. The man declares a legendary doctor has been born in their village, thanking Nonoa for the miracle. He can't stop smiling, a new man thanks to the tiny healer's power. But Nonoa's work isn't done. She turns her attention to another villager. The young girl holds out her hands, ready for her own miracle. The scarred man watches on, confused by this new development. The girl beams, cheerfully demanding payment for Nonoa's services. The free trial period is officially over. The scarred man sweats as the girl clarifies the free trial was a one-person-only deal. With no money on hand, he offers a single piece of candy as payment. Nonoa happily enjoys the spoils of her first successful and paid healing session. Cress marvels at her power, admitting that elven healing magic is incredibly difficult. Nonoa turns back, a smug look crossing her face. She corrects him with a wag of her finger. It's Professor Nonoa now. Cress can only blush, finding her newfound ego absolutely adorable. But his admiration is cut short by a sudden, startled gasp. Both children stop in their tracks, their eyes wide with surprise. They've stumbled upon a very round, very fluffy bird in the grass. Guess that's a big deal around here. Nonoa points out that even in the woods, there's another patient in need. Cress quickly realizes the tiny bird must have fallen from its nest. He glances up at the towering tree, confirming his suspicion. Nonoa approaches the fallen creature, her new mission clear. She offers a comforting smile, ready to cast her pain go away spell. The little bird can only look up, chirping helplessly at its rescuers. Its desperate cries for help echo through the quiet forest clearing. Nonoa promises the bird that she'll get it home safely. Professor Nonoa is on the case, but Cress volunteers to make the dangerous climb up the tree himself. Suddenly, a small hand grips a mysterious gem-topped scepter. But Cress has his own magic, casting a levitation spell with his scepter. He gently floats up towards the nest, a one-boy bird rescue service. He successfully returns the chick to its mother, telling it to go home. But the mother bird responds with a furious, ear-splitting squawk. Cress is completely blindsided by the hostile reception. The mother bird begins viciously attacking him in the tree. So much for gratitude. Nonoa can only watch from below, confused by the sudden violence. Cress cries out as he's pecked relentlessly, begging the angry bird to stop. He lands back on the ground, explaining that the mother bird attacked him. Nonoa looks at the chick, a grim realization dawning. It wasn't lost, it was abandoned. Nonoa can only stare, her mind struggling to understand the cruel reality. Cress explains the harsh law of nature. Weak or sick chicks are often cast out. He tells her that returning the bird to the nest would be a death sentence. Nonoa stands in silence, the weight of the decision falling on her small shoulders. Her expression hardens with a newfound, unwavering resolve. Sometime later, Zaid finally returns home from his mission. The boar warrior, who seems to have traveled with him, walks through the village streets. He calls out to Zaid, announcing their arrival to his daughter. Nonoa greets her father with a huge smile and a brand new feathered friend. The boar warrior can only stare, completely baffled by the new family pet. Nonoa proudly introduces the boar warrior to her new feathered friend. The warrior leans in, asking about the tiny bird perched on her head. She explains the chick was abandoned by its mother and has nowhere else to go. With pleading eyes, she asks if she can keep it. The boar warrior stares down, his expression completely unreadable. He finally breaks his silence, agreeing that it's a fine idea. Nonoa is overjoyed, though her talk of grilled chicken raises some serious questions. He decides that's a conversation for when she's a little older, and so the little bird becomes a part of their unconventional family. Life goes on, filled with bath time, bedtime stories, and quiet moments of reflection. The quiet of night settles over the village, a peaceful scene belying the trouble within. But inside, the boar warrior's expression is heavy with concern. Nonoa finds him by his bedside, asking what's troubling him. But it's Nonoa who is truly heartbroken, tears welling in her eyes. She explains that her new friend, the little bird, is getting weaker. Her healing magic, which worked so well on others, is having no effect. The warrior listens patiently as the tiny girl pours out her heart. He falls silent, understanding the weight of this small, fragile life. Looks like Professor Nonoa has met her first real challenge. With no other options, they seek out the one person who might have an answer. They arrive at the elder's home, presenting the ailing bird for her wisdom. The elder examines the tiny bird, her expression heavy with a sad certainty. Nonoa pleads for her help, admitting her own magic has completely failed. But the matriarch closes her eyes, stating that there is nothing she can do. Nonoa is stunned into silence, unable to comprehend her teacher's words. The elder delivers the harsh truth. The little bird is already gone. Nonoa's world shatters, her mind refusing to accept the grim reality. The elder explains that healing can mend wounds, but it cannot restore a life that has passed. Nonoa listens, her first lesson in magic turning into a lesson about its limits. Through her tears, she asks if this means the chick will finally be with its mother. The boar warrior can only watch, his face a mask of silent sorrow. Nonoa asks with a trembling voice if she'll never see her friend again. The elder gently places the lifeless bird back into Nonoa's hands. She explains that it's now Nonoa's duty to lay it to rest. The weight of this final responsibility settles on the little girl's shoulders. Her eyes fill with tears as the finality of the moment sinks in. She finally breaks down, her cries echoing the heartbreak of her first loss. But through her tears, she finds a quiet resolve, ready to say goodbye. They build a small grave, a final resting place for her tiny friend. The boar warrior and Nonoa kneel together, offering a silent prayer. She says her final farewell, a somber end to a harsh but necessary lesson. The boar warrior walks alone through the village under a starry night sky. Nonoa rests on his broad shoulders, exhausted from the day's sorrow. With tears still fresh on her cheeks, she quietly calls out for her father. The warrior turns his head, asking what's troubling the little girl. She asks him if he was also sad when her mother passed away. The question hangs in the air, a heavy weight between the two of them. He looks to the stars and admits that the pain was immense. Nonoa then asks if his sadness came from how much he loved her. He confirms it, explaining his sorrow was as deep as his love had been. With a new understanding, the two continue their quiet walk home. Nonoa's eyes are filled with the profound sadness of her first real loss. She understands now that love and sorrow are two sides of the same coin. Finding comfort in her father's arms, she holds him tight, her lesson learned. The night passes, bringing a quiet end to a day of harsh realities. But elsewhere, the elven elder sits alone, lost in solemn thought. Her expression is troubled, her mind racing with a new startling revelation. She realizes Nonoa's halo signifies a power that might even defy death itself. Meanwhile, a new group of adventurers approaches a dark, foreboding mine. As they stand at the entrance, countless eyes stare back from the abyss. Well, this can't be good. A horde of the undead suddenly erupts from the darkness, hungry for the living. The adventurers smash their way in only to find the mine teeming with the undead. Alicia draws her blade, her expression hardening as she prepares for battle. She unleashes a wave of holy fire, cutting a path through the darkness. The undead creatures shriek as they're consumed by the sacred flames. Estelle sees their opening, shouting for Zaid to make his move. Zaid responds by lifting a boulder the size of a small house, because of course he does. With a grunt of effort, he prepares to seal their fate. He hurls the massive rock, sending it crashing down towards the mine's entrance. The boulder slams into place, a perfect, if unconventional, seal. The other adventurers celebrate, declaring the monster's nest officially closed for business. The adventurers celebrate, noting how efficient missions are with Zaid on the team. But when invited for drinks, Zaid declines, stating that his daughter is waiting for him. His comrades smile, remarking on his unwavering dedication as a family man. Estelle chimes in, encouraging the others to go home to their own families for a change. The scene then shifts to the grand office of Croft's city mayor. Inside, the mayor sits at his desk, his posture radiating stress and exhaustion. A maid stands before him, her expression one of quiet, professional concern. She confirms his fears, stating that the situation has indeed become quite difficult. The mayor reflects on the new pope, realizing the rumors of his radical nature were an understatement. He then leads Bishop Burzel down the hall, the source of his current political headache. The two men sit down for a formal yet tense discussion in the mayor's office. The mayor questions the bishop's use of the term demi-human, asking if he means elves and dwarves. He points out that this is a new and highly discriminatory label being thrown around. Bishop Burzel simply sips his tea, completely unbothered by the mayor's moral objections. He then reveals the Pope's new decree. Elves and dwarves are now officially classified as demons. The mayor can only stare, the color draining from his face at the shocking news. His mind struggles to process the horrifying implications of this new doctrine. The bishop notes Croft's particularly close relationship with its elven population. Looks like this visit has a very specific purpose. He delivers the Pope's concern that the city is becoming a nest for heretics. The mayor panics, desperately trying to stop the conversation from going any further. The mayor argues back, declaring the bishop's accusation is utterly impossible. He demands to know what grounds the new pope has for such a radical decree. The bishop's answer is simple. Their unsettling appearance is all the proof he needs. So much for theological debate. The mayor can only stare, completely stunned by the sheer idiocy of the logic. The bishop acknowledges that the previous pope had a different interpretation, but that was a mistake. He then offers a path to redemption. If Croft captures the elves and hands them over, they will be pardoned. The captured elves will then be forced to confess their demonic nature before a public execution. He places the burden squarely on the mayor, asking him to prove his faith through this act. The mayor's fist slams down on the table, his patience finally shattered. He shouts that they are not demons, they are comrades from the great human-demon war. He refuses to persecute his comrades for such a ridiculous reason. But the bishop's eyes are cold, completely unfazed by the moral outrage. He leans in, his calm demeanor suddenly turning menacing. The bishop asks if the mayor is calling the word of God absurd. The mayor recoils, a bead of sweat tracing a path of pure terror. The bishop grabs him, screaming that the pope's decree is absolute. His face twists into a mask of fanatical rage as he calls the mayor a heretic. The mayor panics, desperately trying to reaffirm his faith and backtrack. The bishop acknowledges that many citizens have elven and dwarven friends. He twists the mayor's words, claiming this is why the people are afraid. The bishop's smile is chilling as he realizes he has the mayor cornered. He acknowledges the pain of betraying one's friends and comrades, but he claims that is precisely what gives the act its value. The mayor can only stare, completely baffled by the insane justification. The bishop then tells a story of a saint whose faith was tested by God, a man who lost everything yet never cursed his creator. He preaches that the greatest trials are the ones that cause the most pain, and that they should rejoice in this suffering, for it is the path of the devout. The mayor is left speechless, sweating in the face of this religious zealotry. The bishop leans in, his voice a low threat as he asks if he's made himself clear. The mayor sits defeated at his desk, the weight of the church's decree pressing down on him. His maid speaks up, reminding him that the elves are not demons but healers who provide medicine for the town. He knows she's right, but his hands are tied. They're up against the St. Cross Church itself. The church's power has grown immense since the war, its influence now eclipsing even that of kings. To defy the church now is to make an enemy of all humanity. So, no pressure. He rises from his desk, admitting this decision is far beyond the authority of a simple mayor. With his resolve set, he orders a carriage prepared for a trip to the capital. He will seek the judgment of the king himself, hoping for a just resolution. Meanwhile, life in the elven village continues, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering on the horizon.